My name is Irwin Winston. You might have heard me shouting from the back because I heard speakers who were racing too fast. I want to thank everybody who made a presentation expecting us to get a short course in government management in 2 hours, show us some wonderful slides that I can't read from the back of the room. And I would like to know whether you're going to have these slides. It's my first question. Will these slides be available so we can go into our beautiful computers and study them slowly and carefully? The handout is inadequate. You covered much more here.
Yes.
When have you planned for that?
Repeat after me. Edgemont2017.org.
And ask them for it. I know about it.
You said .com before.
What? It's up there.
You said .com before.
Both. Okay, my second question is, since you are all experts, not one of you has talked about the time that you've done this kind of budgeting and with hindsight figured out the things that you overlooked. Now you mentioned a couple of things that require much more comment. One of you talked about comparing whatever you were doing to peer villages. Did you ever question what the satisfaction level was in those villages for the very services you're talking about? Otherwise, what's the point of the peer village if they're not happy with it? Somebody else talked about EMS. Let me ask you this. And someone talked about the fact that if you have your own police force, then you don't have to worry about the fact that they will always be available to you. Really? What are you doing about the problem with climate change? I have, and many people here have lived through Sandy. And I want to tell you something. I don't hear enough about what do we do when there is a really big calamity here because of weather or anything else. I didn't hear one thing up here except someone smartly brought up the question of EMS. I just think you're lacking in vision, and you're lacking in support of your own, I would say, the validity of your own assumptions. Does anyone here have enough experience in doing this over the last 5 years? They can give us a case history so we get a feeling of confidence.
There are some communities that have done this, and they really help you with it. One started out with a community of about 1,200, and it's probably the most rapid growing growth rate in the nation is up to 30,000 10 years later. And it has successfully managed the demands of growth. It's in the southwest corner of the Salt Lake Valley. It's a town called Harriman. There's another community, Cottonwood Heights, that did this about 10 years ago. Began contracting for services at the beginning. It's quite a well-to-do community. It's at the base of Big Cottonwood Canyon that goes up to some of those ski resorts that you're probably familiar with.
Have some of you worked with those communities?
Yeah, this one is in Utah. You haven't had one in New York forever. Right. So we have to use other examples for you. But this town of Cottonwood Heights has been city, about 18,000 population, has been very happy that they were able, after several years, to build their own police department. And their comment on it was, we feel like we are solving our cases faster because we're putting more resources onto our cases, and it's a part of the community that probably has less crime than the larger service area they were part of before, and they felt like their quality of service went up in that instance. So those are a couple examples.
You know, the other thing that I would point to in terms of your concern about what happens when something really bad happens, and that's a completely legitimate concern, and we depend on the communities that we live in to take care of us during those times. And one of the things that I think is very encouraging on that note for you all is the significant fund balance that is built up over time. That is exactly what fund balance is for. It's for when something you hope never happens. And so that type of money is being built in to have available to respond to the type of calamity that you mentioned.
Just one last point on the EMS question. Let me just repeat the point. Sir, in the back. Can you hear me? Irwin, your EMS service providers will not change. The Greenberg EMS that you pay for is the same thing that Dobbs Ferry pays for, and Irvington pays for, and Hastings pays for. And the EMS service that you get from the Greenville Fire District is something you're already paying for. So when you think about a village of Edgemont, one way to think about it, and we as the EIC, not the consultants here, have put together a comparison of services. And we've highlighted for you where there are differences. Some of them are favorable, some of them are not. But you look at them, you'll see that the way in which you want to think about this is versus the alternative. And the alternative is the status quo. And in the case of EMS, it's still the status quo.